Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. Just a really great pleasure and privilege today to talk to Michael Tucker. Michael and I go way back, maybe 15 years,
Yes,
um,
yeah.
maybe longer. I'm not sure. It's been a long time. I arrived in Arizona in 2002. And it was a few years later, maybe 5 years, probably the '07, '08 period of time is probably when I met Michael, I would guess. And subsequently ended up doing some things on the international side and forming Global Chamber 10 years ago in 2014, 15. And Michael was part of that in Tucson, Arizona. He was a talented uh, consultant slash coach and became really an amazing coach, during those years. I also had Michael and was privileged to have him part of the chapter in Tucson. He's on the advisory board for Global Chamber Tucson. As many of you know or may know, Tucson, Arizona is in southern Arizona along the border with Mexico. So it's an interesting area. It's quote unquote international, but it's really but more binational than anything. It feels very, to me, very not global in the sense of not other countries historically. That's evolved and changed, I think, a little bit with time, and it's changing. But it's just an amazing place. It's the only city in the United States that's won this gastronomy award. And maybe, Michael, you know the specifics about that. The food is amazing. And one of the reasons why many of us are involved with global business, certainly a nice little bonus is that the food around the world is amazing, and Tucson is particularly good. More pertinent here to this conversation today, Michael has been involved in all sorts of amazing businesses. And as I mentioned, having him be a member of Global Chamber for so long and working with him so closely and seeing his evolution to become one of the top coaches in the United States and with such an international mentality and mindset has been just a pleasure for me to see him become such a superstar on the global stage. So a year ago, when he called or we chatted and he mentioned about this opportunity of being able to go to Saudi Arabia, to me, it was like, wow, thumbs up. What a great opportunity. Having myself been an expat twice and traveling to 65 countries. I've been an expat in Japan and in Singapore. It's hard to measure or even describe if you haven't been how important that is if you're a global person. So I was really excited for him and was hopeful that it would work out. And guess what? It worked out. So now that Michael's been on the ground for just a little bit, we thought we'd check in. Now that you've been in Saudi Arabia for a little while, you've had some interesting experiences, some amazing experiences, perhaps some challenging experiences as well. There's always a balance that you have to go through. So we're really looking forward to hearing more, Michael. What did I get wrong in the introduction, and what else would you like to add? And then let's have a chat.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Doug. I mean, that was a very warm introduction, and I really appreciate your kind words. Just very, very heartfelt. I know how big of a heart and caring person you are, and how wonderful this program is. I remember years ago when you first mentioned it to me, my thoughts were, well, let's see how this goes. And guess what? It's going exceptionally well. And I'm just absolutely thrilled to be on the other side of the creation of the Global Chamber after all of these years, from seeing this idea that you had in your head to what it's become today. And the connections, I have got to tell you, these connections, guys, that you make through the chamber are par excellence. And I'll talk a little bit about how those connections and those relationships have supported me in this journey here pretty soon. So thanks again, Doug, and I'm ready to answer whatever questions you or anyone in the audience has to ask about this experience.
Fantastic. You made me I kind of forgotten, but when we launched in Tucson, I think you were there. It was at a that co-working space, and it was kind of
Hmm.
in between a building, and we had stacked three shipping containers at the end, and Mayor Rothschild was there, and we were eating Sonoran hot dogs from what's that place? Something Guerra, the
Güero Canelo.
say it again.
Güero Canelo.
Well, amazing. If you haven't had a Sonoran hot dog, I mean, it's not the healthiest thing in the world, but it sure tastes good. And so, whenever I'm in Tucson, and now they have a place in Phoenix, it's really extraordinary. So thank you for the support all the way back to that beginning, and all the way, and for your kind words as well. Tell us a little bit more about how this all transpired for you. How in the world did this opportunity come up initially? And then what were some of the things that you were thinking about in terms of, is this something I want to do or not?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so you spoke a little earlier about my work as a coach. And for those of you who don't know me, I work as an executive coach. And I have been coaching for the last 10 years. And I started off locally there in Tucson and worked with leaders. And I just kept pushing the envelope in terms of opportunities and ended up coaching some very, very large companies that you would be familiar with, SpaceX, Twitch, a number of others that got me to a point where I had realized, I was pretty much at the top of my game. Everything that I said that I wanted to accomplish in the profession of coaching there in the States, I had accomplished. And so I was I had this experience, and then right alongside that, my wife and I, we actually met in South Korea back in 2006, and so we always talked about going back overseas, being international, and so we talked about it, and then in 2022, we ended up traveling to Costa Rica to visit a friend, and he really encouraged us to look into it further. And so we started to take it very seriously. And his reasons at the time was just that the world was changing and we needed to get out of America. And so that was his thoughts at the time. And I'm not one of these individuals that's moved very much by fear, but I am moved by opportunity. And so I kept my mind open. We visited Mexico the following year. We were there for about a month, and we thought, oh, maybe not. This is not our spot. And then we were going to visit another country in 2024, but we decided not to because we were building a house. And while I was with a client, and I was finishing up with a client in Utah. I was in the airport and just happened to check my email from my university where I completed my coaching program. And there was this opportunity to coach in Saudi Arabia. And I was all over it. And so, I mean, right away, I responded to the gentleman who had posted the job position in the newsletter, and it's just been ongoing since then. And that was June of last year. So, and just to give you all some context, especially when you're traveling here to Saudi Arabia, if you're working for a company, the process is very long. I mean, it's a very long visa process, and a very long employment process. But all in all, that whole process was 10 months for me. So just to kind of create some context around the time. But yeah, I think the thing that really motivated me to pack up and move was I had accomplished my goals. I was ready for something else. And then I was paying attention to what was going on in the world. And Saudi Arabia just had some really amazing things going on. And so when I saw this opportunity, it just made sense. um, to me, and then I had to convince my wife. So we could talk a little more about that, about how I did that if you'd like. But I'll just pause right there because I see that there's some questions here in the comments, and maybe you have some other things.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And as far as the format, thanks everybody for already starting to to have questions. I was just going to ask him a couple framework questions so we can understand how we got there, and then I'm very happy to have, if you're open to it, reach out, either raise your hand and ask a question, and Michael's, I'm sure, will be happy to answer your question. As far as the this meeting, by the way, it's about quarter after, and we're gonna our goal is to go to 55, so 5 minutes ahead of the top of the hour, so that you've got time to transition. So I think we're gonna have plenty of time for Q&A. Feel free to, like I said, raise your hand, and we'll get to that in a moment. As far as a little bit more of the framework or platform of just understanding what the situation is, somehow then, Michael, you applied for this, and then you got approved. How many months ago was it approved? What were some of the things that you were doing in preparation? And tell us a little bit more about you actually landing on the ground, how that all went.
Sure. Well, I'm really glad you asked that question because I would imagine most folks on this call are entrepreneurs, and so I was running my business. Then I had this opportunity, and it looked like it was going to happen, and then it was taking so long, and I was wondering if it was actually going to happen. And so there was this, you know, push and pull always inside of me in terms of should I go out and get more clients because I think this is happening, but I'm not sure. So I had to navigate that. Um, and the at least in my case, the employment process was pretty long. I had 5 interviews that I went through, and it was for a while. It was about an interview a month, because this gets into culture. Um, Here in Saudi Arabia, there's a different pace and a different relationship with time. And that relationship with time is, uh, it happens when it happens. It'll take as long as it takes. And so coming from a background in the States where we are very punctual, we're driving, to that next objective as fast as we can. That was something that mentally it was very challenging going through that interview process, um, and and waiting to find out if I was approved, and waiting to find out if they were going to send the airline tickets, and waiting to find out if my visa was approved. It's in the military. We have a saying, because I'm prior Air Force. The saying is hurry up and wait, and that was the experience all throughout this journey, all the way up until October of last year, where I had to just make a leap of faith and just say, hey, I'm not taking on any new clients because I'm going to see this opportunity through.
Wow.
And yeah, and now that speaks to the amount of money that I had to save in order to be able to do that. So I'm saying that to say this, if you're thinking about coming overseas, anticipate that it's going to take a little longer, and I'm specifically talking about the Middle East. Anticipate that it will take a little longer than you expect, and it will probably cost more than you expect. So it's something to keep in mind.
What is the actual deal? Are you getting paid by someone, and how does that work?
Right. Perfect. Thanks. I'm sure I apologize. I didn't make that clear. So the role that I took is with the Saudi Electricity Company as an executive coach. And my role here is to develop department managers who have been thoroughly vetted to become executives in this company. So I lead a program. The program is it's a 6-month program, and the participants in this program go through a series of trainings and workshops and so forth, that are led by myself and sometimes by external consultants, and they grow over this 6-month program. And each of these individuals coaches with me once a month. So there's 34 individuals in this program. And my job is by the end of this program to make sure that these individuals are ready to sit in an executive director or a VP role. And so I didn't come as a business owner. However, I still own my business, and we can talk about business very much for those of you who wanted to know the details about that.
The intent then is for you to be a full-time
That's
dedicated
right.
to this, and kind of the deal is that you don't take on outside clients, that this is your focus.
That's that's the deal. That's the deal. And we'll just leave it at that. That's the deal.
Okay.
So,
How many tens of millions of dollars are they paying you for this honor and privilege?
uh, we'll just say that I negotiated a really good package for myself,
Okay.
and it became an offer that just made sense for me. So,
And is it intended to be 6 months? You mentioned 6 months or longer. What's the duration?
sure. So that's the program that I lead, but my contract here is a year contract. And the contracts typically that you'll find that expats get here in the Middle East, they're 1 year, 2 years kind of contracts. But the reality is, if I do a good job and don't burn anything down, there's a likelihood that contract will be extended. And working for the power company with the objective to um, double power production in the next 5 years. It is a very, very, very big mandate. And really, just to put that into context, when you think about Saudi Arabia, you think about the power that they're producing. It's taken them about 130 years to get to the level of power production that they are at now, and they need to produce 50% of that in the next 5 years. And so that requires leadership that is creative, that's innovative, that thinks out of the box, that understands what it means to be entrepreneurial, that understands what it means to lean into technology, and all of these different types of skill sets in order to make sure that the country achieves its Vision 2030 goal.
So that sounds good. Is this fairly typical, or have you found now that you've landed that you're like one of only zero or one, or are there more people like this in Saudi Arabia doing similar work?
There There are lots of expats here, and I'm surprised that there are not more from the U.S. And uh, there are people from the U.S. here, but you have a lot of people from the U.K. You have folks from South Africa. You have folks from Australia. Lots and lots of expats. And what I will tell you is that if you are here, you are doing something extremely important. So I could throw a rock and hit someone who's doing something on a very large global scale. Whereas when I was in Tucson, I was looking under rocks to find some of these individuals.
They're
Yeah.
all over. Do expats tend to be kind of in the same neighborhood kind of thing? Do you guys hang out together?
Sure, that's a great question. So let's talk about the living situation in Saudi Arabia for expats. So whether you are running a business or whether you're working for a company, usually, initially, not 100% of the time, but initially, expats will stay in what they call a compound. And a compound, it's basically a walled off, very, very nice community. I happen to be staying in one that I call diet compound because it doesn't have as big of a I mean it doesn't have turrets out front and that kind of thing because some of them do have that. Um, this country is very safe, but there were times in the past when it wasn't safe, and so that's why you have the security and the walls and these kinds of things. But but yet typically the expats will stay in a centralized location. And so it's and a lot of these places are very elaborate. They're very elaborate. They have restaurants and barber shops and all kinds of things, swimming pools and security guards and people to get your mail. So it's it's a good quality of living.
You mentioned earlier, it might have been before the recording started. So just for the benefit of folks who might have missed it, um, you've been there alone so far, but your wife is coming. So it's a package that includes her.
Right, that's correct. That's correct.
Great. Is she excited about the whole experience? What's her take so far?
Well, she's very excited, and she didn't start off excited. So, how did I break the news to her? And how did I enroll her in this opportunity to be in the Middle East? Well, she knew that I was looking for other countries to explore, and when this opportunity um, came my way, immediately I reached out, and I was in the airport when I reached out to the hiring manager, and I thought, okay, how in the world am I going to break this to my wife? And so I went home and I told her, I said, hey, we've been looking at a lot of different countries. What do you think about Saudi Arabia? And her response was, what? That was her response. And I said, well, I know it's different, but let's just talk about what's going on over there. And I talked about Vision 2030, and I talked about the line, and I talked about how Saudi um, is is positioned to be the Silicon Valley of the Middle East. And I talked about how Saudi Arabia is what Dubai was 15 or 20 years ago. And she got interested. And then I told her, you can just not work for a year, and then that's what sold her. So 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 that's how it worked.
Fantastic. I have some more questions, but I'd rather open it up, and then if there's time, we'll slip those in, and then Michael make some final comments before we finish in about 25, 30 minutes. I'm
Sure.
wondering, Sadia or Maricel, you've both asked questions in the chat area, and undoubtedly there's some other questions. Maricel, you had asked first. Would you like to, are you able to speak and ask Michael a question?
Let me see. Do you see me? Hi.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
Good. So I'm interested in knowing because I have some study clients and you touch on a very important aspect that I wish I knew before. Is the timeline. That is the timeline. I'm a tax lawyer, so my clients are either high net worth Puerto Ricans or high net worth US clients. And they
Mhm.
are like bam bam. So high net worth individuals in Puerto Rico and the US are like they want things promptly, but on the other hand, and that's how I get. So that's why I asked, what do you see about the major difference of doing business in in the Middle East versus the US? And this could be like, for example, how they respond to emails, the length of time, how to coordinate a meeting. And the second question is, what recommendations would you give to a business that wants to start doing business in KSA? And I'm asking this for my Latam businesses that may want to start seeing they see the market growing and they just want to start opening up to that part of the world.
Sure, absolutely. So there's a lot of questions there. I would definitely say, in terms of time and promptness, um, again, they have their own time, and there's a whole other calendar that they operate on here. Number one. So just take that into consideration. And what I've learned so far about working with the Saudis, everything is about relationship and respect. So if I promise something to them, I'm going to get it to them right away, knowing that they have their own time. So that's, and now that being said, it's really good to follow up. What I've discovered here is the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Okay.
But you don't want to be a pest, if that makes sense.
All right.
And so following up with niceties, making sure that you are paying attention to the time of year and the holidays, because there are,
Okay.
several different holidays. That's really important. And just honoring that and just taking your time. In terms of businesses getting started, I cannot tell you how many times I have been, how many times I've heard this question, and am actually supporting a business in the healthcare space right now that's looking to come over here, and just doing some initial groundwork. What I would say is find someone who specializes in doing that and work with them. That's what I would say to your clients. You can pay attention. You could probably chat GPT a lot of things, and that could be helpful. But I would really find someone that specializes in that, because the laws and the rules here are very, very different. There's a lot of red tape, and a lot of hoops to jump through. However, once you get past all of that and you really get on the ground and you start to build those relationships of trust and you become a known trusted entity, the amount of connections and relationships that will just cause your business to grow without your effort will surprise you.
Okay. Okay.
So
No, great advice.
yeah.
There's a Maria's in the audience, and Maria, you work with Karina Getz, who's a longtime member of Global Chamber and really an amazing expert. Her tip, are you available just to say hi and
Yeah, absolutely. Hi,
your
Doug.
thoughts? Hey, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, sorry, I'm traveling, so it's a bit noisy. Yeah, listen, it's a great call. It's interesting to join, and thanks for having us. Myself and another team member on the call, Kerry. So yeah, we've been through a lot of this already. We're a global consultancy, HR and finance, that have set up in the UK, but we cover Ireland, the UK. We have a head of consulting in the Middle East, and we have a team based in Cape Town and out of Melbourne. So we're building a global model, but Saudi Arabia, as you say, is the Silicon Valley of the Middle East, and it is certainly the place to be at the moment, because it is exactly what you're saying. It is the new Dubai. I think learnings for ourselves was around building the relationships with very credible local partners. So your Saudi nationals that are really strong in the areas that you want are absolutely key, because it speeds up the process, and obviously that itself will save you money. The other thing that we have found is exactly what you said earlier about finding the right partners from an advice point of view. Because we had ourselves worked with companies in Saudi, and I suppose our introduction was through working with other businesses that we were employees of, and they had been around the houses, I suppose, in terms of working with different partners that weren't right. So they were getting the wrong advice, they were getting the wrong contracts, all of that stuff. So we're now starting to expand into the UAE. So we're working with big groups between Fujairah and Dubai, Abu Dhabi and Saudi. They're our main kind of areas that we're focusing on for the Middle East. But yeah, based on what you've said, I wouldn't argue with any of those. Obviously, Karina is in the Global Chamber as well. She's been a massive support to ourselves in terms of, if you follow her Instagram or her LinkedIn, you will see her newsletter every Sunday. She's talking about the cultural aspect of it, and how do you build relationships, and it's like you've just spoken about what matters to them, and how do you then get business across the line with them is really, really important. So she's been really, really key, because she spends a lot of time over there. So yeah, so any learnings or any sessions like this you're running, Doug, moving forward, would love to attend and support. And obviously we're looking to partner with people, as we said. So we have companies going into Saudi Arabia and Dubai at the moment from the UK, because of the changes of the government in the UK and changes of tax, etc. You are seeing people now looking at the Middle East a lot closer. So what we support is we support all of the setup in terms of company registration and visas, government relations, all of that side of things. We have a team on the ground in Saudi that do that. And then from a HR point of view, we work with businesses who are going in to set up HR teams or finance departments, etc. So if any of that is of any use to anybody, please reach out to me. Happy to have a call wherever we can support. For us, it's about building relationships. So more than happy to engage. And it's really good to meet everybody.
Brilliant. Thank you. And the three of the places you talked about are high priority for us right now because of some new leaders, Ireland, Cape Town, and Melbourne. So I'd love to circle back with you. I think we're scheduled to
yes,
speak
Doug, we've got
anyway. So
exactly, yeah, totally. Because I would love to talk to you about that as well.
Thank you. Michael, what Maria talked about on the partnership side, you already kind of mentioned that. Anything else you'd like to add or elaborate on that?
Yeah, I would just double click on what you were talking about in terms of working with Karina. I took her course. She has a course, and I will tell you that helped immensely. Where she just really helps you wrap your mind around the culture, the dress, the big projects, because it's interesting because here's what I will say. In my short time here, I've had the opportunity to network with some individuals and these individuals all hold very strong positions in whatever company that they're working for. But what I've also discovered is that as you talk to them, you'll find that they not only have this solid position in this company, they usually have a side business. But these side businesses are a little bit different than how we think of side businesses in the US, right? In side business, you'll make $100 here or $200 there. These are enterprises a lot of times, guys. So it's important to make sure that whoever you're dealing with, again, you show them that respect, you get to know them as an individual, and you talk to them about their whole life and all of the things that they're into. And oftentimes it's that conversation about that side business that will lead you into new relationships and connections that you never thought were possible.
Interesting. Great comments. Thank you, Maria. Maricel, did you have any additional questions? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I know you had a couple different questions. Did you have some additional things that you wanted to ask Michael, or any comments that you have?
No, that was my two questions. I visited Saudi in 2022 for a pharma and biometrics conference, and I was planning, and I'm still deciding in consideration of what's going on globally, if I'm going to attend food exhibition going in Riyadh on December. I think that's why I asked. Latam has many fruits and like products that I think so. I want to learn more. When I saw the country, I saw what they were putting together, and I think it's a place to. I agree, and I think it's a place to be. The thing is cultural difference. You have to account for that definitely, and honestly, it's a very great introduction of how to do business in Saudi, because that's many of the things that I encountered with my Saudi clients.
Yeah, it is very different. But here's what I will just touch on really quickly because you talked about biometrics. What I will talk about here really quickly is technology. A lot of times when people think about the Middle East, they just think, oh, it's sand and camels. Let me explain something. This place is way more technologically advanced than you could ever imagine. And now that being said, they're still growing, right? So they've got all this incredible technology. So for here, I'll just give you an example. So there's one app that basically controls everything. So I have this, you have to get this app. Once you get your ICAMA, that's like your social security number and your little card, which is digital, by the way. And so this app is connected to your bank account. You cannot open a bank account without this app. This is connected to your insurance. It's connected to your work. It's connected to you paying speeding tickets. It is connected to everything. So, I mean, and that's just a small part of it. But I mean, I don't carry keys because there's facial recognition, and that lets me into my apartment. You know, and there's so many other things that we could talk about, but this country is really they're it's almost like they've skipped over a lot of the older technology and have just are moving into some of the latest technology here. And so it's very different. Now, the downside is when you have a challenge with one of these connecting apps to the app, then the whole thing has its own temperament. And so you have to be patient and walk through that process. Um, and sometimes being patient means getting help because sometimes the locals don't necessarily maybe understand how we expect customer service to be, being from the West, and they have a different relationship with customer service. So here, if for anyone who is thinking about a business in Saudi Arabia, if you did a business around soft skills and customer service, it would be extremely successful here. So
that's interesting. That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. Maricel, would you just 30-second introduction of your work in Puerto Rico and beyond?
Oh, I'm a corporate and tax lawyer here in Puerto Rico. Not only I assist high net worth clients to their estate planning, but also I assist international companies that want to establish their business in Puerto Rico. And for my local business clients, definitely I want to attract investors. And I think that Doug knows that I do on the side is that I, through my work, through my expertise, I want to promote my island as an investment and showcase the opportunity that Puerto Rico has as a pathway to LATAM and attract new businesses, new business owners. So that's why I'm very interested in all things international.
yeah.
And so she gets to live near my partner with Global Chamber, Cesar Trabanco, who is, I think, back just in the last 12 hours from a long trip across Latin America. So he's back in town. Thank you, Maricel. I wanted to I've got a couple people. Sadia Mohammed, I've seen that you're commenting. Would love to hear from you if you're open to opening up the mic. And also Awis. Awis is on the ground. Awis, where are you located? In Dubai? Are you
Hi,
available?
Doug. Hi, everyone. Can you
How
hear
are
me?
you? Yes, we can. Are
Hi.
you're in
Hi,
Dubai, right? Or where are you?
Abu Dhabi. Abu
You know,
Dhabi.
okay, very good.
Yeah.
Anything that you've heard surprising, or do you have any questions for Michael or any other thoughts?
No, I think I totally agree with what Michael said about the culture, the work culture, and the business environment in Saudi. Saudi is pretty much, copying what UAE, the sort of the blueprint, the success stories, what UAE achieved. Saudi is probably doing it on a more pro max basis, I would say. But yeah, I mean, I would love to know if Michael knows anyone on the ground in Saudi who does business development. We could definitely collaborate on that. We don't have an office or partners in Saudi, but we do get a lot of inquiries for business setup in Saudi. So, if anything inquiry comes up, we're more than happy to collaborate and see how we can build on that. But yeah, for the UAE, we're pretty much well established in this market. And yeah, I'm happy to be part of the chamber, Doug, and hope to be part of more of your seminars and the webinars.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just speak to that really quickly in terms of business development and connections and so forth. I will tell you, I am working very diligently to build my network here. And I've met a handful of people who are in that space. And so I'll put my LinkedIn in the chat. So if you want to send me some messages or queries or what have you, I'm happy to maybe make connections and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's just you cannot be here and second guess anyone who's here. You really cannot, because everyone is doing something so amazing, and at the same time, relationships are key, because there's so many people doing so many things. You want to make sure that you're dealing with the right people, and so as you start to establish those relationships will definitely guide you.
It's great advice what you gave earlier about just getting to know people anywhere, right? Kind of like that next layer, and suddenly there it sounds like they could be connected to a family or an enterprise that would be of high significance. But boy, that's just good practice anywhere to get as much as you can to be connected that way. So thank you for that advice very much.
Absolutely.
Sadia, did you have either a question or a comment? Have you been to Riyadh? Have you been to Saudi Arabia? You're probably doing business with folks in the area.
Yes, so thank you so much, Doug, and thanks for all the great work that you're doing. And to everyone on this panel, I'm very happy to meet you all. I have been to Saudi Arabia twice, not for business. I actually visited 2 years ago alone by myself, and I had a wonderful experience. I took the train from Mecca to Medina back and forth. I actually performed my Umrah twice. But I'm involved in international trade. I am a licensed customs broker with the United States Treasury Department, and we work with companies all over the world who import goods into the United States. We do consulting, and we're very involved in logistics and all the tariffs that's going on right now.
Sounds good. And I detect a New York accent in there.
Yes, I am actually on Long Island.
Long Island. Okay, we're on Long Island.
On the South Shore, we're 20 minutes away from JFK, but my office is at JFK Airport.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of where I grew up, actually, off of Merrick Boulevard and in Queens. And my parents settled in Valley Stream and spent the summers at Jones Beach. So
I'm in Lynbrook, so I'm not far from Valley Stream.
I had an uncle in Lynbrook, my uncle Bill. Yeah, so amazing. So great. No, great area. And I consider that to be one of my 30 homes around the world that I feel really comfortable. Thank you for sharing.
Excellent. You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any other questions or would like to make a comment? I see Benjamin Hernandez in the room and Eduardo. Hey guys, how are you? Good to see you. I think I might have interrupted someone. Did someone have a comment?
No, I was gonna say I saw your question, Sadia, in the chat. You asked why Saudi and not Dubai, and I'll answer that question. So, one, my opportunity was here in Saudi, and not Dubai. However, what I will say is, I like Saudi for a bunch of reasons, and Wayne Gretzky, he had this quote, and he talks about, people asked him, like, how was he so good as a hockey player? And what he said was that most people go to where the puck is, and what he does is he goes to where the puck is going. And so when I think about business, when I think about industry, when I think about a number of industries, when I think about especially technology, where the puck is going, where it is the UAE. Where it's going is Saudi. And I think that it's interesting. I was recently in the UAE, and I had a guy at the airport. He was just working there at the airport, and he said, welcome to Dubai. We hope that you bring your Saudi money and spend it here. That's what he said to me. And I think that's very reminiscent of Dubai. People make their money elsewhere and they bring it and they spend it and they live a really wonderful life there in Dubai. But I just think this is Saudi. Saudi is, yes, it's a little bit more challenging and not as comfortable as Dubai for sure, but it is in the path of progress. And so if you are one of these individuals who wants to get to where the puck is going, if you want to stake your claim before everybody gets there, and trust me, there's a lot of folks already here, but there's still so much room and there's so many opportunities. Saudi's the place.
Can I ask you a
Benjamin,
question, please?
oh,
Please, yeah.
sure, go ahead.
So that's great advice. I was just at an event last week hosted by the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce with a team from Dubai that wants people from the United States to invest in businesses in Dubai. So taking what you just said, I think it's an excellent opportunity to look at Saudi Arabia instead of Dubai. And I feel that that's really excellent advice from you, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Benjamin, when are you headed over?
I
There's
don't know
probably a
about
real
that.
estate investor or two that would benefit from meeting you over there.
Probably, yeah, no doubt about it. There's a lot of money over there, and spaceports are coming up everywhere. So, Michael, I had a question. My question was, what's the long game for you and for your wife?
That's such a great question, Benjamin. And it's interesting because I was actually just having that conversation with my mentor earlier this morning. What is the long game? What's the play? And if I'm deeply honest, I'm still figuring that out. My thought was, hey, come to Saudi, land, and expand. So build relationships, do an excellent job at the work that I'm doing, and see where those relationships take me. And I can tell you, just from the relationships that I've already started to develop, the future looks very bright in this region of the world for me. Um, um, it's interesting. You're in real estate, is that correct? Okay. What kind of real estate do you do?
I do commercial real estate, mostly
Okay.
industrial.
So here, let me just give you an example of the kinds of relationships that you can build here. So you're in commercial real estate. When I first arrived, I came with a bunch of other expats and I was staying in a hotel. And it just so happened that I started talking to this guy at the omelet bar in the hotel. Well, it just so happens that this gentleman, he is responsible for all of the real estate that is going to be around King Solomon Park. And if you're familiar with that project, if you're not familiar with that project, just think of Central Park in New York and multiply it by 6. They're putting millions of trees there. So if that's a kind of relationship that you'd like to have, I'm happy to make that introduction for you. Um, so just, and I share this because I mean, just about anything that you want to create, you can create it here. You just need to think even bigger than what you have imagined.
Amazing. Can you ever imagine headed back to Tucson?
I've got some property there, so I definitely see myself visiting a time or two, but right now I'm enjoying my time here. I feel like this is definitely the right place for me to be, and this is where I am right now. So maybe a couple of visits, but for right now, the Middle East, that's where I've met several expats that have been here, 10 years, 15 years, 30 years. They just figured it out. You can come here, and if you are an entrepreneurial type, once you jump through all of the hoops, yes, there will be hoops to jump through, but once you get established, there's an ease and flow that goes with it. If you are if you want to work for a company, I have some thoughts about that as well. First and foremost, be great at what you do. Make sure you have all your education and licenses and so forth, and look for opportunities here. There are a number of recruiters and job boards that specifically look for folks here in Saudi, and they're hiring people for all kinds of things, whether it's defense, whether it's finance. Finance is big. Real estate is massive. I would say that's the biggest thing out here. So find your way. You know, give your patience to that opportunity and land here and expand here as you build your network.
Brilliant. Any additional final comment that you'd like to make?
I would just say that if you are global minded, and I know everyone here is on the call, don't rule out the Middle East. I know right now, the neighborhood has some challenges, but that's what makes this even more of an attractive opportunity. And when I talk about the neighborhood, I don't need to talk about what's going on around Saudi Arabia in terms of just the conflict. But Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, where we are here, it's safe. You can literally leave your phone, leave your wallet wherever, and it will be there hours, days later. So you're not dealing with the kind of crime and so forth that we might be used to in the West. People are easygoing once you start to establish relationships with them. So my advice is, if you're thinking about global business, if you want to be if you want to be ahead of the curve, if you want to be where the puck is going, especially if you're in technology, healthcare, real estate, a number of these other spaces, don't rule out this part of the world, because this is where many of tomorrow's leaders and businesses will be coming from. I know because I'm here creating them.
Michael Tucker, superstar, global coach, world traveler, now expatriate in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much for sharing today. You are global and unstoppable. You always have been, and now more than ever. Thank you for taking the time today to share these early days as we progress. Okay to check in once in a while and see how
Absolutely.
things are going.
Absolutely. Please do. Please do. And if I can make any connections or support anyone that's looking to do business here, I mean, you guys have my LinkedIn here. Just reach out, and I will do my best to support you in whatever way I can. You all are Global Chamber members, so that means you're brothers and sisters to me, and I'm excited to build with you.
Thank you, Michael, and thanks all of you for attending today. Those of you in person, of course, reach out anytime as a member of Global Chamber for any help that you might need and any support. And if you're watching this on video, again, member of Global Chamber, always reach out. And if you're not a member, hey, reach out. You know, we're happy to help in any way that we can. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Jem, could you just say what's coming up? Because I think we have a meeting starting right now, actually.
Yeah, we have coming up today book author series Beyond the Block, a writer's breakthrough. So it will be happening now in 3 minutes. And later in the afternoon, we have Global Real Estate Roundtable. So Benjamin, feel free to join us later. And tomorrow we have League of Opportunities. And I also put in the chat the link for our full event calendar. Feel free to visit and join us. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everybody. Take care, Michael.
Bye for now.
Enjoy the day, everyone.